All right, all right, all right. What's up, y'all? We are back again after a few weeks off. Hiatus, mid-season, CW say, hey, might as well bring these magical Negroes back. So,
Wow.
no, well, not that, yeah,
That's-
So, what's up, Robert? We back after a few
yeah.
weeks.
New year, new do, right? New year, new do.
No, for real.
No, just happy to be back at it. I guess the one thing that this show does that every other show nowadays does is they go on to the mid-season
Yeah.
finale,
Hmm.
or hiatus, and
Yeah.
then we get the back half. So it's
Yeah.
it's I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing because back in the day you were just
Yeah.
used to like 22 episodes unless it was like a
Yes.
winter break or
Right.
like a
Right.
like a football game or something, but
Hmm.
it wasn't like close to a month. So
Yeah.
it's just something that they do. So
Yeah. It's interesting. So tell me this before we even get into the now episode with the with the episode 8
mhm.
done, hiatus wrapping up. Did this feel like to you a continuation, or was it like this is completely different from what we've gotten?
It feels. I mean, it it feels like a continuation. That was one of the things that was one of the pros. I have a pro column and a con column, and so that was one of the things I did appreciate. They did their best to make it feel as if this episode came on right after the previous episode. So there wasn't anything really different about it. So I mean, how about you?
I feel the same. I do feel like you could go from episode 8 into episode 9 and be perfectly fine, know what's going on.
Mhm.
The only thing that felt a little bit like, remember this, y'all, was that beginning like flashback
Yep.
montage tied in.
Yeah.
Like that felt kind of weird.
Hmm.
But that aside, no, I think it was a good show. It was a good kind of bridge the gap. Yeah.
Okay.
Whew, okay. When you're listening and when you're watching this live and even watching it after or watching the show after or whatever, use the hashtag AL4400, AL4400 for a light in the sky. That's the official hashtag for the show. My goodness, we have 5 episodes left. Well, four, not including this one. This one
Mhm.
is season 1, episode 9, Great Expectations. The scene is chaotic, and everyone is still reeling after Mildred's on camera performance. Meanwhile, the government tries to figure out their next move. As far as synopsises go, that seems pretty on the nose and not too spoilery.
Yeah.
Um, get right to it. What's your general thoughts? How you feeling?
Um, I'm okay. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, um, there were things that worked. There was a lot that didn't for me,
Okay, okay,
and
that's fair.
um, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And um, what about you? What about you?
I'm of the same mind. I enjoyed it. I was riding high, live tweeting like, "Oh, we back? I love this, wow,
Yeah.
whatever." But there was some things I was like, What is going on? What's happening? What are
Hmm.
we?"
Yep.
Especially knowing there's only 4 more episodes left. It's
Yeah.
like, and I appreciate the moves that they're making because there was a conversation that was had when I was live tweeting with one of the writers who is
Hmm.
Asian. I'm not sure like where from, but there
Hmm.
was a conversation about Steve, the Asian security guard, and
Right.
his role in all this. So generally I enjoyed it, but there were some things I was like, I don't understand what we're doing or where are we gonna go or how are we gonna get there. So
Yeah.
kind of the same boat.
Um, yeah, and that's something. I mean, I'm assuming one of the things we'll do is like a season review.
Okay, hey, I'm
Just
with it.
to yeah,
I'm with it.
I definitely want to do that. Um, and I think some of the thoughts and things that we have discussed before.
Mm-hmm.
will, and how I felt with this episode are going to play a part in the larger
Okay.
look that we have. But those feelings were looming large with this being the
Mm-hmm.
midseason
Yeah.
return. So,
Yes.
but we can jump into it.
I'm ready.
As far as so, I'll throw it to you first. What was something that worked or didn't work, or something that stood out to you as far as the episode?
I enjoyed uh, more than I realized. I enjoyed Shanice and Dr. Andre.
Okay.
There is something to me about their heated conversations where there's this back and forth that's almost an argument, but it's like a
Hmm.
very stern and understanding like back and forth.
Right.
I did like where they fell in this episode. And I realized that I want more of them more than I did during the first part of the season. Um, Jarrell, I am a fan. I am a
Hmm.
fan. Not that I wasn't already, but I did like Jarrell because to me, Jarrell felt very different from. Had you seen Spider Man No Way Home?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, and if y'all
Oh,
ain't seen it,
and
sorry guys, spoiler.
spoiler warning.
But
Spoiler warning.
the kind of heavy-handed way that Aunt May was like, "You got to save these folks. You got to
Hmm.
help them out. You got."
Yeah.
I felt like Jarrell is that, but not as like over the top. Like he's like, man, we got to help
Hmm.
these people. They have names. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
They felt like two sides of the same coin, but he was not as like in your face, over the
Hmm.
top, beat the nail on the head. So I enjoyed Jarrell for sure in this episode. He was a big draw for me.
Well, there's the only thing that I had with him, because I felt that the actor actually did a really good job. Shout out to Arrowverse
Mm-hmm.
alumni Joseph David Jones.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, I felt that this was his episode. This was this
Mm-hmm.
was Jarrell's episode. The only thing that I felt that that they had him come up short with was being obtuse when he went in there when he got fired, by
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, and then he
Mm-hmm.
was just like, "Well, I'm going to the media," and it was
Yeah.
like it's like, dude, that they've been playing games, from the beginning. So, it just seemed
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, I wish that he had kind of clapped back with something more substantial. I
Yeah.
think as we all do if we ever get let go. But
Hey.
outside of that, this quick funny story. Somebody did the speech from Jerry Maguire when he got let go at one of my jobs. He did the he said, "I'm not
Good.
going to go crazy." Yeah, it was
Good.
awkward. It was awkward. So maybe you shouldn't do stuff like that in real life. But
uh.
I think this definitely was his episode to shine, especially with um, I guess the revelations about Manny
Yeah.
that were happening. Um, the other, so double dutching over to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to let me keep it positive for right now as far as feedback. I This show has is one of the realest like sci-fi properties on TV right now that actually deals with things that we're dealing with as far as issues, different issues or different
Yeah.
um, problems or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things so there were a couple of examples of that, and the first being when the mom was talking to, I think her name is it Soraya?
Raya. Yep.
Yeah, when she was talking to Soraya, and she says straight up, she's like, they're looking at you like you a terrorist when the government is run by, or or everybody surrounding you are the real terrorists. So
Mm-hmm.
they were, I'm pretty sure they're focusing on the radical right, the January 6th and insurrectionist,
Yeah.
but just kind of I like having conversations like that, and then we have the thing that happens later on with the security guard,
Yeah.
or with the contract security guard. I cannot remember his name, but it was something that you had mentioned as far as like on
Mhm.
Twitter, where he was like straight up, I don't want to be involved with any of y'all
Yeah.
because that brings undue attention back to my folks and who are Asian, and
Yeah.
they were a rash of like Asian hate crimes, and
Yeah.
within it was within COVID, with the rise of
Mm-hmm.
COVID. So the
Yeah.
fact that they kind of brought both of those storylines or just issues or matters into the fold, into the story, I actually
Mm-hmm.
like, and it didn't really
Yeah.
seem forced. Like when Soraya was talking to her mom, I mean, I'm being real. That's like me talking to my mom.
Yeah.
It's like, just about something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I that's one of the things I do appreciate about this season, and it's something that we've wanted from the previous
Mm-hmm.
series. And the
Mm-hmm.
previous series
Yep.
did that as far as like government oversight,
Yeah.
the overreaction to 9/11, but this is stuff that directly affects people of color.
Right. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are two things that I actually did like about this episode.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that thing that stood out to me. What about you? Pros or cons? Anything that stood out?
Soraya and her mom actually reminded me a lot of LaDonna and her mom. They felt
Mm,
like they were very similar, but like culturally different, which is so
yeah.
weird because colorism is a thing in pretty much every POC
Right.
community.
Yeah.
However, LaDonna's mama and her having that conversation, and then having in turn Soraya and her mom talking like, "When you gonna get married?" Because such and such.
Right.
I
Hmm.
appreciated that. I like that. Um, and because I'm not of that culture, uh, though I'm enjoying a lot of stuff, especially like with Steve, I don't know if
Steve.
the
That's his name.
representation or the depiction is done well. And so
Hmm.
I'll just mention like, oh, okay, I like this, like the
Hmm.
Steve thing I mentioned. I appreciate them incorporating Stop Asian Hate into this
Yep.
series. The only thing for me, I wish they had have done is maybe establish it a little bit more. Because for
Yeah.
me, Steve saying, "Oh, my family shop getting wrecked or something,"
Like,
to me
yeah.
came out of left field. I was like, "What the hell
Right.
are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, what kind
Right.
of shop is this?" Now, I didn't
Hmm.
tie the Asian part to it because to me it
Right.
felt like that's my only kind of issue. But I'm
Hmm.
hoping that they do maybe you're juggling so many characters, but I do hope that because this was brought up and because the way it ended with the security guards kind of banding together to be hateful, I hope
Hmm.
that his Asian uh, part of Steve kind of comes back into play a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, but I did like that. I don't know, it wasn't too much. I did like the ending.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I like that. I don't know what's going on. I like that Claudette is never around for this. Not really, but like Claudette be gone. They were just like, yeah, she's gone.
Hmm.
But whatever. Go
No, I
ahead.
mean, no, and that's kind of like that
Mm,
leans more towards some of the stuff that's not working
yeah.
for me at times. The other, I did, even though the opening was kind of jarring,
Mm-hmm.
um, because what, I started thinking about, and I can never get this right. What Missy Elliott used to say, or flip it up and
Yeah.
reverse
Yeah.
it. And every time they did that, I just had that sound in my head
Yeah.
um, from that Missy Elliott song, and it was a weird way to. Now, I like the storytelling method of them showing where everybody was at when
Mm-hmm.
shit hit the fan,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
last episode, and what they were
Mm-hmm.
doing was just intercutting that footage
Mm-hmm.
with shots of where everybody else was at.
Right.
Um, so that worked, but it was weird things like Jarrell giving a major like exposition drop as he and Keisha were
Yeah.
walking down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing though that I didn't notice was when they kept showing the shot of Bill Green on the ground, I guess unconscious or falling. If you keep looking at the extras in the background,
Yeah.
nobody is reacting. Everybody is just
Wow.
standing. Yeah, like
Wow.
there's one like there's a middle-aged or older lady just standing
Mm-hmm.
there, and I really think that they, of course that was CG. That was
Mm-hmm.
that and they weren't doing it on strings. That was a column that was added in there afterwards. But I was just like, I needed somebody to tell these people to actually react because she was looking at something on sale that she wasn't really vibing with. And then she wasn't the only one. So it was
Yo.
like little things like that that kind of pulled me out. But I like that they tried to do something different
Yeah.
with the opening to show like this is where so and
Mm-hmm.
so and so and so, and even that when Jessica was on the phone with Bill Green before he, did a
Yeah.
backflip out the window, you realize that that's who he was talking to,
Yeah. Yeah.
at that point. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then I just wanted to hear what's his name, Reverend Isaiah say, "No, Mildred, no, no."
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah. So like I said, I'll give him props for the opening.
Yeah.
Um, and yep, I did give him props for the opening. What
Yo.
else?
Yo. I will say, what's her name? Wyler Yari. I believe that's it. The actress who plays Jessica.
Yeah.
I think she's doing a good job at, like, because I don't like her. I don't like her at all.
Hmm.
And me not liking her is very different from, like, in the beginning when I wasn't really a fan of Keisha. Me
Hmm.
not liking Jessica is, I understand she's doing her job, but of course
Hmm.
she's not the protagonist.
Right. Right.
So, but I think that she is stepping into that role in a way that doesn't feel so generic. Like
Hmm.
when Bill to me is just generic, evil white man CEO. He doesn't to me feel any different than, I don't know, like I said, random Spike Lee villain. Um, but I did like Jessica because it's like you fired, she even
Hmm.
hit Keisha later on with the we broke up. I miss you. They said you broke up with her, but so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like her because I do not like that character, and I think she's doing a pretty good job.
Well, I mean, so the thing we can talk about her because, like you said, she is definitely killing it when it comes to, playing the antagonist for
Yeah.
this season.
Hmm.
Um, and I think she's definitely falling into the role. The difference between her and Bill Green is that we haven't really gotten a lot of time with him,
You're
to the
right. You're right.
point where he's somebody outside of showing up, looking, like a, I don't know, like a typical, what do you say, Washington D.C. player, like
Yeah.
I was gonna say lobbyist, but like a politician or a Fed,
Yeah.
person Fed in a suit,
Hmm.
and then he gets thrown out of a window. Like we haven't really seen him display much
Bruh.
emotion, if anything.
Yeah.
And I think that does a disservice to him because like when we see him in the hospital bed,
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't feel anything for him, or I don't feel anything really against him.
Hmm.
Um, I was just like, he's just some motherfucker who got thrown out of a window.
Yeah.
There's not now. If they had
Right.
thrown Jessica out the window, then I'm like,
Oh.
oh shit, that's
Yeah.
that's rough.
Yeah.
But it kind of built up to that. We
Hmm.
kind of saw that coming, but um, so she definitely is killing that role. Because when she's fired,
Right.
I've been laid off. I've never
Oh,
been fired,
bruh. Yeah.
but she took a sort of perverse, type of like
Yo.
he's like, you're fired. And it was just like, so it
Yeah.
was nasty. I was just like,
It
oh,
was.
damn
It
it.
was very.
You're gonna have to
Mm.
get a job now.
Ugh.
But and she was like, you've been a problem. You've been in my ass since you've been here. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I hate it for him. But as far as making her the antagonist that we didn't know we needed in the
Yeah.
show, that's that. But I think let me go into a little bit of what wasn't kind of jiving with me as
Mhm.
much. Um, they're iguanas. It's just like I did that for me. That it was like it was weird. Like it just that's a small thing. It's just like iguanas wasn't. I was trying to see how it relates to the 4400, but something that's bigger
Mhm.
than that. I needed. I, okay, so Keisha, my wife she had to remind me about this.
Mhm.
Early on in the episode, I felt that they had her character backsliding to how she was earlier in the
Yep.
season
Yeah,
because
I
she
agree.
she was when her and Jarrell were talking about post Mildred, freaking out. She was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
the government is, how you think they're going to react and this and that and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And their conversation about that specifically, as far as the government, I guess, activating the, what do you call it?
Conservatorship.
The
Mm-hmm.
conservatorships, and putting all the 4400 in place, or setting up this tip line.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't agreeing with it, but she was just like, well, this is where we're at, and then da da da. And
Mm-hmm.
her reactions to how her coming at him, her reactions to him with the whole thing with Manny, with the
Mm-hmm.
clocks, because she at one
Fam.
point,
Yeah.
she keep. I mean, there were two lines. She said, "Keep an eye on your." When he was like, when he got fired, she's like, "Yeah, I'll keep an eye on your damn wall." And
Yeah.
then when Soraya showed up, and at the bar later on, and they saw the clock at the bar, she rolled her eyes, and Soraya started trying to help him. She's like, "Don't encourage him." And
Yeah.
but then by the end of the episode, she did. She quit. So she realized, but it was just it was a weird kind of. It was weird to see her reacting that way, because for the past couple of episodes, she's been trying to help the 4400, and I think that she had kind of come around a little bit, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
completely, but to
Right.
how to Jarrell and his mysterious brother. So
Mm-hmm.
that was very out of pocket.
Yeah. Very.
I felt. I mean,
Yeah.
any thoughts on that, or
I hated it because
yeah,
I feel the same way about that I do about every single DC and Marvel property. If I live in a city where a man can fly to the moon, where a
mm-hmm,
man can set himself on fire, where a little boy can swing through the roof and trees on a
yeah,
web, why would I not consider that maybe this clock that keeps
mm-hmm,
showing up everywhere is a
yeah,
thing? Like, I was like, this, and then she said, well, if he's really here, why don't he just poof, give you a message like I'm here? So I was like, out of all the stuff you've seen,
mm-hmm,
you really are giving him pushback
yeah,
against it. If anything, this should make you more open to pretty much everything.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wasn't a fan of Keisha, not this episode.
Yeah. It just seemed very unnecessary.
Yeah.
And like I said, no disservice to the actress, because
Oh
she's
yeah,
doing
she.
like
Hmm.
she's killing it. But it just seemed like they, once again, Jessica has got into a point where we know that they that's where she is. That's where she is. I
Hmm.
think I'm trying to think of another character. I mean, Jarrell has been on point.
Yeah.
And I think she's just had an arc, where
Hmm.
she's kind of come around to Jarrell. But even, like, I always think of, like, the Mulder and Scully. Scully wasn't out. I mean, I guess Scully was doubting. That's always a
Yeah.
relationship that I kind of see them building on. You have the skeptic, and
Hmm.
then you have the believer.
Yeah.
Um, and I never really, maybe those first couple of seasons she was like that, where they would
Hmm.
go to a town, see, like, obvious signs of, like, vampire attacks, and then they see
Hmm.
a bat, and she's like, science or whatever. But
Yeah.
no, it just seemed like Keisha was, they just kind of did her wrong this one. But yeah, it's whatever. But what's your next point of discussion?
Um. In okay, so got Keisha in the clock. Um. I have an issue with the Reverend, and I have an issue with Soraya, but my issues with them are more personal than show wise. Well, kind of, sort of with Rev. Well, no, it is. No, I'm sorry, it's both. It's personal and it's like with the show. Um, I don't know. I guess I'll start with Rev. Um, I feel like they don't know what they're doing with him, and that is bothering me
Yep.
because you set him up as this morally gray, not morally gray, kind of morally gray villainous character
Yeah.
who is like this sinister leader, this Jordan Collier. I'm not getting Jordan from him anymore, and that's bothering me. Because
Yeah.
it's like you already gave him very little screen time in the beginning of the series, but it was effective when we did see him
Hmm.
to build up to this. And I'm like, he's the one character who I feel like should be what Soraya ultimately is, and I don't like that.
Hmm. Yeah. So my thing with him was like, get out your feelings.
Hmm.
Because there was a lot of, and I still think the scenes between him and, I'm going to get the name wrong, him and Shanice
Hmm.
worked for me. I liked the two of them together, because
Yeah.
we saw that building up when they were on the opposite sides of, and he had that
Hmm.
really good line. It's something like, it was something. It was a couple episodes again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before where he said something like you think all I do is wrong, or it was something to that
Mm-hmm.
effect.
Yeah,
So
I remember
I
that.
like seeing the two of them in scenes together. But in this, it seemed like his faith had been broken
Mm-hmm.
in what he was capable of doing. And so my thing is, when was the last time you spoke to Mildred? Like you weren't you yeah she wasn't a part of your flock. So to say that you're losing control or that you lost control when she did what she did, she wasn't under your wing to begin with. So
At all.
I could see if that scene played out with I cannot remember her name, but the Asian actress that
Yeah,
they
with
showed
the
in a couple of
yeah.
episodes, that
Mm-hmm.
where you have somebody who's directly been kind of learning. So what if she was the one that showed up and bright lighted his ass out the window? Then I could
Right.
see that. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's no relationship between him. So I was kind of seeing that whole thing of like, well, I have lack of control. You never had control. She was never in your life like that to begin with.
Yeah.
And it seemed like an unnecessary kind of crisis of faith, but
Mm-hmm.
in
I agree.
himself, in
I agree.
himself. Um, and as far as with him, I think my hope is that he is he's still a mole. He's still a mole for the government because right now it's
Original.
just yeah he there's that the whole thing where he gives away the information about the sanctuary. That was
Yeah.
one thing that kind of got me when he was talking
Which
with
man, I was so pissed, bro. I
yeah,
was so pissed.
me too. I was just like, how the fuck, they're not letting you out, but you don't have to say shit. So that's what I was thinking. Like
Oh,
maybe he just did this shit on purpose, right?
yeah.
But then the flip side of that is I still want him to be that Jordan Collier,
Mm-hmm. Me
and
too.
because he keeps saying like, well, she asked him, it's like, why didn't you sign it? Why didn't you sign a conservatorship? And in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I'm like, because he knew, what
Yeah.
was happening, what was about to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a nice little end game for him,
Yeah.
where it
Mm-hmm.
turns out that he was working for the government. But with what we saw tonight with Soraya, or yesterday or Monday
Mm-hmm.
with Soraya, it's just like, why would you need, why
Two. Yeah.
two, you know?
I,
So I don't I don't know what they're doing with him.
they don't know either. And that's frustrating. And it's
Yeah.
really irritating because there are canonically other 4,400 facilities. There are so
Hmm.
many others. So,
Yeah.
not that we necessarily need to bring those people in this season, but I always have that in the back of my head when things happen in this Detroit location. Like
Hmm.
the things y'all got going on, like what is going on with these other people? And I don't know. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't like Rev, but the reasons why I don't like him, I enjoyed that because you set him up
Hmm.
to be this villain who he
Yep.
is not following through with. So now, um, with four more episodes, I don't even really have a prediction. I'm just ready to see what what are you gonna do, and please don't make him be this redeemed good guy by the end of the season. I don't need that. I want my villain.
Well, and that's the thing, because at that point, and that's one of the things that's frustrating me.
Hmm.
Um, all the bad guys are just the government, and
Yeah,
I know that you don't want to do this. You don't want to compare, this to the previous series, but um, definitely the government they were a problem. They were a problem in that
yeah.
first season.
Hmm.
But the other thing that you had is you had Jordan. You
Hmm.
had somebody who was actually within the ranks of the 4,400, who
Hmm.
was trying to do his own thing, to
Right.
the point where he was a master manipulator,
Hmm.
and his goal was to do it for. I think it was selfish reasons on his part, but also I think he still cared about his people, about the
Yeah.
4,400, and
Hmm.
that's who I see the Reverend being.
Easily.
He's yeah, he could have been that like Magneto type of guy where you don't
Hmm.
necessarily agree with the methods, but you understand the message.
Right,
So
right, right.
and I don't think that all the 4,400 would be on the same page. They're
Yeah, I
not
don't either.
they're not monolithic.
Hmm.
Nobody. I mean, we always say this, like all black folks don't think the same.
Hmm.
We saw one of them fools running around on January 6th. I don't think he was at the barbecue last year. That
Yo,
shit. So
right,
yeah,
right.
like he's like, these my people, and he's running through the damn Capitol, and we're sitting down watching this on TV, and it's just like, well, I mean, he's his own person, right?
Yeah,
But that's the thing that I always felt. I felt that you can do with a story like this where everybody has their own agenda. In that
yeah.
first season, we had a freaking serial killer, who was
Mm-hmm.
like, let's
Mm-hmm.
let's just have fun.
We did, yeah,
He didn't care about the larger story. So I think that
at all.
if you just do this as the evil government versus the 4400, I think you're losing something, because there are
Yeah.
more opportunities to tell stories about other 4400 who have their own agendas. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
and partly, maybe that's Mildred.
But
Yeah.
even if that's her, we don't.
Mhm.
It's like there's another show happening somewhere off panel, but we
Yes.
get her when she guest stars on this one. Cause like,
Right.
how do we go from sweet hippie to like falling in love, kind
Hmm.
of, or hanging out, being a kid, to like the hospital, then like the military, then like killing?
Hmm.
Like, there's so many extremes with her that I'm
Yeah.
sure they can tie up, but
Hmm.
like, I want to see that development.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
become, I don't know, SEAL Team 6 or whatever? Like,
I would say I call her Call of Duty Mildred,
yeah,
getting ready to
yeah, that
run up in
works.
there. What else? What else is working for you or not working?
Um, the Soraya thing specifically, and I'm going to
Hmm.
give them a little grace with that, and at least see what's going to happen in the next episode, because
Hmm.
I'm sure this ties back to when she was being tortured, and this is
Hmm.
good to have that person on the inside who is so nice, but again, I just don't think it should have been her. Or if so, it shouldn't have been revealed so soon. Like, this should have been some cliffhanger that was like, it
Hmm.
was her all along or something. But I don't like her being the, because what, like, are you
Hmm.
threatening her parents? Like, what would motivate her to do this?
Her mom
You
looked
know,
like she was living her best life. She was
hey, she
just
was
like,
fine. She was chilling.
she said,
So
"Fuck government, come to my house." Like, they
yes,
terrorists anyways. I was
no,
just
for
like,
real.
so.
She showed him, bro. She was
She,
like, and they didn't say the words that folks
yeah,
say, but
she
they said the words.
like I said, that's a
Yeah.
conversation that I would have with my mom or my dad.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
she was like, "Why they coming after you, motherfucker?" No,
Yep.
they need to be coming after themselves. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
then that's why that scene worked for me. But
Hmm.
specifically with Soraya, I'm with you. Like, I don't like it, but I'm going to
Hmm.
give it a leeway of like maybe a couple episodes. If we got four more, we got two to show, why she
Yeah.
is at where she's
Yeah.
at. They did give a little hint of it in
Hmm.
this episode. I just don't think that you wait till the episode for the big reveal to give a hint. The hint in this one was when she was talking with Andre, and Andre was, discussing, why, I guess the guy's name is Keith, why the contractor or the security guard, whatever his name is.
Steve.
Steve, okay,
Hmm.
Keith, what the hell? But Steve, she says something that said, it made me believe that whatever she said reminded me of, like, if somebody's back is up against the wall, they will
Okay.
do something. It was a little throwaway line. They had her
Hmm.
look kind of not away, but at the computer quietly
Hmm.
for like a beat. And I was like, okay, so
Hmm.
this is your clue, but you put that clue in the same episode as you gave the reveal. There hasn't been
Yeah.
any build up. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we needed a scene of her, having a secret phone conversation with somebody, or it could have actually been something like what she said to Andre, and then that way
Yeah.
we would have had breadcrumbs kind of dropped
Hmm.
throughout, a couple of episodes
Hmm.
before we got up to this. It definitely does that whole thing of, working from the inside, as far as having a mole that is in good with
Hmm.
the 4400. But what makes it even worse is when, she came back from the interrogation and she was shell shocked, and
Hmm.
just not, maybe not shell shocked, but she was just like she didn't want to talk to LaDonna. And then she had
Right.
that very straight up conversation about being She called herself the other, where
Yeah.
she's a woman, she's a woman of color, she's Muslim, and
Mm. Queer.
she's lesbian and she's queer,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? So it's just like, and that's when she told LaDonna, I'm trying to work for y'all, I'm trying to help y'all out, but
Hmm.
in reality, she isn't. So it's like they're gonna have to do some more digging for that, because
Yeah.
right now it's just like there's nothing that's been shown before that she was heading this way, or that
Yeah.
she was thinking about this.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
on the
I'm not.
fence about it.
Mm-mm. I am too. I don't like. I'm gonna give them one episode. I'm not giving you two or three because we only got four. But I'm
Right.
giving them one episode to make this make sense.
Hmm.
And we need Ladonna back because it seemed like the people who she like integral to her,
Hmm.
Steve and Soraya, are having these issues or morality or just
Hmm.
hateful issues with the 4400. Like, bring her back to see what happens there. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
There. I think the other thing that was kind of getting to me was uh, well, let me not say that. Um, there. What's up with the chime? Um,
Bro,
yeah.
they clearly sponsored this episode
Well,
or this show.
yeah. I mean, I saw. We've seen the commercials, but this is like the third or fourth time, and it's kind of weird because I don't see this with like, so the only shows I mainly watch on the CW, if I do, if I
Mm,
watch them live, are the Arrowverse
mhm.
shows. And I don't
Yeah.
remember like Oliver popping a backflip as the Green Arrow and then holding up like a burger and saying it sure is tasty.
Oh,
It just, and I'm just like, so why do that with this? It just
and
seemed.
they didn't do a good job. Like, you could have easily snuck in that was a chime card, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm finna go and buy this with my chime card." I'm
He
like,
said, "I'll
"Jarrell,
pay for this with my chime card."
what are you talking about, Jarrell? First of all, you just got fired. You need to hold on to that chime card." It was weird. That was very weird.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And and most when people pay for stuff, they usually just say like, "Yo, I got this." And just like, I think that maybe it would have been so obvious, if they hadn't like shown it in his hand clear enough,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
folled that right up with the
Yes.
chime card. It's just
And then the
weird that
commercial.
this is
Hmm.
the advertising show.
I liken it to the Truman Show. I said this feels very. Would you like a some of coffee, something for the Himalayan mountain? Like whenever his wife,
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
feels like. I was like, ugh, ugh, do
yeah.
better
I didn't come away from that ready to get a chime card.
at all.
At all. What about you? What was another point of
Um,
contention or something that stood out in a good way?
honestly, the season, the scene. Okay, two things. One scene, but two things. When Andre and Shanice out at the park hanging out,
Hmm.
whatever. I cannot, as a person living in this world, regardless black, white, or whatever, I
Hmm.
cannot sit here and believe that we are detaining these 4400s, but we didn't look at the blueprints of the hotel. We
Hmm.
didn't get insider knowledge about what's going on in the hotel. Where is there extra exits or
Yeah.
what? Like, I don't. I like the MacGuffin-ness of it, like, oh, if we need them out, we can get them out. But like, this feels very unlikely,
Yeah.
especially with superpower people just running around.
Hmm.
Um, and also after they got to the park, the fact that I think it was kind of clumsy the way the 4400 versus Steve
Hmm.
skateboard scene went down, where he was like, "Well, the girl caught in a tip line," and this, and so I get the fallout from it. I think that was fine, but the
Hmm.
actual action of like hurting his leg and healing it and this and it, that felt kind of clumsy to me. It felt like it. Like, one, why did it have to be Steve? We know
Hmm.
why, because of the reaction,
Yeah.
but like it felt like it was either rushed or just like we need to get the point B and just get a point
Hmm.
A on there. I didn't like that.
Well, I mean, it's the other. So let's ask a question. Like, what purpose did that scene serve? You saw Andre use his abilities in public, which was a pretty big thing.
Hmm.
Um, did they catch any flack for that? because the person that saw them is not like is at least now didn't really he didn't go and report them, so there was the biggest thing that I was worried about with that scene was, and I know that their I think their goal was to have Steve kind of lead up to the point where he was talking about the
Yeah.
Asian hate, but then
Mm-hmm.
also you had the tip line being
Yeah.
showing it in force. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's what they were going for, but it just like you said, it was done it felt clumsily because my thing was like the dude is and he's on rollerblades.
Yeah.
Are people still doing that? I didn't know that was like a thing. I thought it was like that was a late '90s thing, but that might just be me. Like I don't leave my house, so that's the one thing.
As you shouldn't. It's a
Yeah,
panoramic. But yeah.
yeah. So and the chances of the two of them seeing him. So like, why is he rollerblading around the place where he works? Like most of us, when we leave work, we're not trying to hang out in the area. We're
At
trying to get
all.
the fuck away. So it just seemed like the chances, and we're dealing with the science fiction property. We're dealing with
Yeah.
something where outlandish or crazy things happen, but
Mm-hmm.
that he would be the person that they would run into.
Yeah.
Um, it was kind of like a huge coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that I just like it was kind of weird. And then the way that we've built him up, and I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
now because of what happened with Mildred, now he's on 10. Before he was always like at 5, because you remember when
Mm-hmm.
he saw them, he was saying something to the effect of like, "Why are y'all out here?" And I
Yeah.
think Steve pre-Mildred would have been like, "Oh, you guys can't be here," so
Mm-hmm.
that I can kind of accept. But just like
Mm-hmm.
the chances of them running into one of the contractors or the security guards from the hotel
Yeah.
it wasn't working, and I do agree with you that they would have checked the schematics or the blueprints of this place where they had these time displaced people who literally fell out of the sky, and should have checked to see if like is there a secret entrance or is there a back door.
Hey,
Yeah.
something. And I would have
So
been okay if they showed them checking that and then
mhm.
later there was a secret door. Like, okay,
Right.
maybe something, I don't know, was bricked over, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's kind of
Yeah.
clumsy. Clumsy. And F Rev, man, forget him. Yeah, I know you mentioned already, but him telling we're gonna go and mail this letter, I was like, this feels forced and weird. So,
Yeah.
and he's just from the '90s. This man is not from 1921, so he
So
would be. Go ahead.
no, keep going with you, keep because you're heading in the direction I think I was
No,
going to pick up on.
I just think he would be aware enough to not like Andre. I could see him be like, well, no, not even that, because I initially, like in the first couple episodes, Andre was like that, but he's learned to be like a little bit apprehensive when dealing with the powers that be. So for Rev to be like, and you know what, Jessica, this is my plan, and I dare you to stop my plan. Though I haven't been here on this earth in the last 20 something years,
Mm-hmm.
I dare you to get in my way. Like, what are you doing? What is the point of this?
Every black person who was born in this country
Ah,
after
yes.
1619 should have
Mm-hmm.
a healthy distrust of the United States government. It does, and so my problem with him
Mm-hmm.
from the get go, teaming, and that's how I figured that he was an asshole. Him teaming up with
Mm-hmm.
Bill Green and the government, um,
Yeah.
and was in his favor. You can't tell me
Mm-hmm.
that. And now, unless he just totally trusts the government, and it's
Right.
just like Candace Owens or on some shit like that, But we
Mm-hmm.
haven't established that he is a
Right.
radical right, conservative leaning, black
Mm-hmm.
person. So
Yeah.
when this whole thing of like, I didn't know that they would have done this. I was just like, yes,
You're a liar. You
yeah,
are a
you're a
liar.
liar. That's why I'm leaning towards the thing of like it has to be that there's some end game involved with him, because none of the black people or people of color that were brought back out of time
Mm-hmm.
should believe that in their time the government was better than they were. They are not. If anything, they've stayed
Hey.
the same. The government has stayed the same and they've gotten worse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so when it comes to the Reverend specifically, him acting oblivious to what um just they're capable of, I think it's playing into his larger end game. If that
Hmm.
ain't the fact, then he just a stupid motherfucker.
Yeah.
um
And that's.
that's kind of where I'm at with that. So once again, if anybody watching this or listening, any
Hmm.
black person brought to born after 1619 in this country, it's never worked out for us when it comes to the
Right.
U.S. government, or we have to
Hmm.
fight for it to work out for us. So, and I
Absolutely.
think and I think that's the one thing that this show has definitely gotten right. So
So
don't
forget
tell,
him.
yeah, don't
Mm.
tell us not to have a healthy distrust of this shit. I mean, this shit,
Yeah.
man.
No, you're right. You're right, and that's I'm sick. I'm sick of Rev. I'm going to give him a few more episodes, but like
Mhm,
you got him. The way they've established him is so odd. Like in the '90s, he was like in love with this girl. I get the
mhm,
family drama. I get that aspect, but like you
yeah.
come back, you take Jordan Collier's role, you denounce that woman and her child. Then
Mhm,
you like I don't know. You side with Bill. You do all these
mhm,
things that seem to be negative for the 4400. Then you go to the library and listen to your son's podcast about your terrible parents and their treatment of
mhm.
him,
Yep.
and you disown him because he's queer and never laid eyes on this boy. And then
Mhm.
there's so much that has been set up to be wrong with him, and it's like, are we going to follow up on any of this? Like,
No, I don't. You got 4 episodes. No, like I don't see how there's a possibility for that.
yeah. Which is sad because him, Shanice, and LaDonna are the ones that you should easily be able to do that with.
Mhm,
Easily. They're the most recent abductees. So I don't
mhm.
know, man. This is not I do not like this. I do
Yeah,
not.
I mean, and that's kind of the thing. Like that's the thing that's kind of getting me is,
Hmm.
and this is, and we'll like I said, I might repeat myself when we do the season long, I mean, the
Hmm.
season finale or whatever, or
Yeah.
this, season recap. But
Hmm.
I'm it's starting to get into Black Lightning territory for me in terms of,
Mm.
in terms of like certain hanging plot threads,
Okay, yeah.
um, or opportunities that I I I think there's something to be said for, like, we don't know where this is going or the
Hmm.
direction that it's going.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm really trying my best not to compare it to the first season as
Yeah.
far as the kind of the plot line or the
Hmm.
plots where they were heading
Yeah.
with that first season. But it felt a little bit more kind of concrete,
Yeah.
where we where what the end game was going to be.
Hmm.
And I'm not getting that as much. And it's sometimes it feels a little all over the place.
A little.
And okay, well, I mean, I like I said,
No.
I'm trying to give it, like, at
Yeah.
least 4 episodes, and it was like, and it's kind of it's strange because I think, like, and this is kind of us, getting to the, I guess, close to wrapping this up, but
Yeah.
um we started off pretty high, with the season, as far as
Hmm.
being like hyped and stuff,
Yes.
and as it progresses, it's just kind of, I don't know how to feel really,
Yeah.
like, um so, I don't know, that's kind of, and that's why this episode kind of brought that home for me,
Hmm.
because that, so I don't know, but
Yeah, no, no, I'm with you. I'm with you there. This is a lot. I'm hoping
mhm,
it's just because it was the mid-season return,
mhm,
but when there's 15 episodes, wait, 13 episodes. Yeah, oh, I'm talking about 15. 13
mhm,
episodes,
mhm.
that's what's been said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It doesn't it gives I'm trying to hold out hope because again, we started off on a high note.
Mhm.
Um and do we know if this has been renewed for a second season or not?
They haven't said anything.
Okay.
One of the things that, and let's, because, let's do this.
Mhm.
Um, we can do the favorite scene, least favorite.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
favorite character, least favorite character, and favorite scene. So,
Mhm.
what was your favorite character for this episode?
Claudette. No. Let me. That woman was MIA.
Yeah,
Jarrell. I'd have to give it to Jarrell.
yeah.
Yeah.
I for me, it's I'd say Jarrell too. You know,
Okay.
Jarrell, I think was pretty solid. Who? What
Hmm.
about your least favorite?
I want to go with Jessica, but I think me not liking her so much
Hmm.
makes that such a great performance, so I won't go with
Yeah.
her. Um, Based off of how I felt and what you said earlier, I'm going to go with Keisha. I'm
Okay.
going to go with Keisha because I think she more than anybody was like acting like you said a little bit more regressed,
Hmm.
even more so than Soraya because I'm giving them grace
Yeah.
with her. So I'm going to go with Keisha.
Yeah. Uh, I might have to do choose Reverend. You know,
Okay.
the Reverend. You know, it just I think I'm still in a position with him where I there might be a chance, and that might be the big reveal. Like that might
Yeah.
be the M Night Shyamalan twist.
Oh
You know,
Lord.
that he really
Yeah.
he was a ghost, y'all. That he
Uh,
really is still a mole. So I'm holding out hope for that. But
okay.
this whole kind of self doubt and because one person that you never had like two conversations with did something different. I just like
Yeah.
she wasn't like watching you on the hotel TV saying, "Oh, the Reverend's right." You know,
Hmm.
now Mildred been on her own path since jump. Like when she turned
Yeah.
that camera around, she don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
Um, my favorite. What about your favorite scene?
Um, is there one? Yeah. Well, no. Favorite scene? I guess it's my favorite only because I was so shocked by it. Was the Soraya reveal? Because
Okay,
not even 10 minutes before I had tweeted, "Oh, Soraya, please protect her at all costs. I love her. I trust you." And then that. So I'm
right,
gonna say that just because it was the one scene out of the whole episode that really had me like, okay, what the hell is going on?
kind of shook.
So
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
Soraya reveal.
Um, you know, for the scene that had me kind of
Hmm.
I guess I'll just call it because it was a surprise when the Reverend and Shanice came. They were in the elevator, and then you see the government officials carrying all the boxes.
Hmm.
Because I felt that they were just doing some more excessive, crazy bullshit, like being
Yeah.
evil. I was just like, man, they
Hmm.
putting these motherfuckers out on the street. What are the 4,400 going to do? Warm themselves with their abilities? I got pissed. I was like, "What the fuck is
Yeah.
up?" And then Andre says, "Lord," he said, "Lords prevail, Hickory Dickory Dock." You know, we've I don't know. I don't speak from like from the 20s. He
Yeah.
it turned out that it was the opposite. The government they were leaving, and I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is a you know." This was before the reveal, you know, her
Right.
talking to Don
Hmm.
Corleone in the hospital, you know, type of shit. It bruised up, but that was I guess my favorite scene because it was a surprise.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, out of how many broken bodied Bill Greens, you know,
Good
how
Lord.
are you going to rate this?
I don't know. After the conversation, probably a bit lower than I would have initially.
Yeah,
I'd have to go with five. Five
yeah.
broken bodies.
Uh, I'm there. That's where I was going to be, about like five.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't. So one on a good note or a happy note, we're still sticking with the show. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's yeah, that's the thing. Like, and I will say that there are shows that I've watched where I was just like, what? You know, like you
Yeah.
know, and it just and that's just kind of how it be. Um, Shout out to the D Space Nine hopscotch episode. If anybody
Mm,
watches that show, you know what I mean. They isn't that where you do like you do the jump and then you know
hmm.
one square, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So look that up. D Space Nine hopscotch. So that wasn't the best, but um, just generally speaking, I don't know what's going to happen for these last four episodes. I hope it gets better than this one
Hmm.
was. But on a happy note, or I guess
Yeah.
no, the GLAD Awards was it the GLAD Media Awards
Hmm.
were announced yesterday, and the 4400 was nominated in the what was it? I think it's best new TV show
Hmm.
category.
Something like, yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
it.
like let me get the exact.
Yeah.
It is outstanding new TV series,
Mm.
and they are. It looks like going up against Chucky,
Yeah.
Hacks, Harlem, The Long Call, the Sex Lives of.
No. They went
Yeah,
up against
this.
Harlem and oh, I was gonna say Harlem and one. They're nominated. Jesus Christ. But yeah. Yeah.
The Sex Lives of College Girls and Sort of.
Oh, that was a pretty good one. But yeah.
Yeah, um it's a looks like they got some stiff competition, but
Yeah.
the fact that they work, and that's one of the things I will say is that another thing I do appreciate is, and once again this is something we've asked for, better representation as
Yeah.
compared to
Hmm.
um the previous series. And not saying the previous series
Right.
was BS with that, but it
Hmm.
was
A sign of the
we
time.
it's on in time. And
Hmm.
now I think that um that representation only helps the story. It doesn't
Hmm.
um people come, I think I saw one headline on YouTube when I was doing looking for stuff about it for 400, and they were like,
Hmm.
this, woke, the woke 4400, and I was
Mm.
like, no, it's not even that. It's just like it just it yeah, it's not even that. So
Yeah.
congratulations to them for being nominated for that award.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um and that's the only other bit of like news that I've heard about the series. I haven't heard anything
Mhm.
about a season um renewal, for a second season.
I'm actually a little not nervous. Well, for lack of a better word, nervous because of
Hmm.
the CW stuff that went down about a week or two ago about them
Yeah.
never having ever made money. I'm like, ooh. And a
Hmm.
friend of mine, God given over on Twitter, he was like, yeah, I'm kind of nervous for the show. And I was like, man, ain't no point in being nervous because, like, at the very least, even if CW was to sell, I feel like it would take like a year, at least a year, or at least like the rest of this year. So
Hmm.
but that being said, now it's just like with no renewal
Hmm.
announcement, and also that CW news, and also I don't know. I'm like everything is kind of up in the air. Even with Naomi, will that come back? So
Yeah, I mean, they're still announcing new series for the CW. Like
okay,
they just announced a Diggle centric series where,
really,
yeah, yeah, no, David Ramsey is just like, I ain't leaving the Arrowverse. Um, shit, he
hey,
said I'm gonna direct these episodes, and I'm gonna
look,
move from episode to episode. But no, he and shout, more power to him. But they just announced a TV series. I don't know if it's been picked up for a full season, but I know at least the pilot, where it's about him recruiting a team of like meta teens or meta college age students,
mm,
and having them go to college, but like an actual college, but at the same time he's going to be like a mentor,
okay,
teaching them how to eventually become superheroes. So it's
hmm,
kind of like, it has kind of maybe like a Teen Titans Young Justice type of vibe, as far as where
okay,
you're focusing on um, an actual group of, well, I mean, at this point they'll be college students,
yeah,
but they won't be like studying to get their graduate degrees.
right, right,
They'll be
right,
like,
right, yeah,
they won't be like Ice Cube and higher learning. So
bruh,
the favorite
bruh.
students, man, they whoop them skinheads ass. I love it. But there's, um,
Yo.
yeah, but they announced that, and I was of the belief that the Arrowverse was about to breathe a quiet death. To be honest with
Mhm.
you,
Mhm.
um, and that's weird to say. It's weird to say that they're doing more like superhero centric stuff. Like Naomi, it's outside of the Arrowverse.
Mhm.
So, and I think the other thing that show has is Ava DuVernay,
Yeah.
behind it. So
Mhm.
I think that is going to get picked up for a second season. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's going to get picked up for a second season. And I watched both episodes. Second episode, I think, worked better for me than the first one.
Okay.
I just wasn't really feeling the first one as much, but the second one kind of built off of that. The first one was like, I was
Mhm.
I was kind of halfway, so I was like 5 or 6. But
Yeah.
so all this to say, after seeing that article about the CW possibly being sold, and people thinking like, where all the
Mhm.
show's going to go, they announced a show with Diggle. So I
Man,
mean,
no.
unless they, they definitely know something we don't. So
Yeah.
I
Yes.
so,
Yes.
but all that to say, I don't know about a second season for this. I don't know
Yeah, I ain't
when.
seen nothing either.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. And that is concerning because I think that it's one of those things where I think you can go either way, but I think there are a lot of shows who have rough first seasons.
Hmm.
And you see a little inkling of something that could, that could work.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they just don't get that shot. And sometimes if they do get the shot, it doesn't work or it does work.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we'll
No, you're
see.
right. Oh yeah, we will. We will definitely. I don't know. Yeah, all in all, I do like the show. This wasn't the greatest episode.
Mm,
But I'm hoping that we come back stronger. Next episode and kill it
yeah.
because Claudette's gonna be back, so I'm already more excited for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh man, okay, well, this has been real dusting off the dirt off the tires, getting back into the
Yeah.
game, man. Well, let these folks know where they can find you, support you, and all that stuff.
You can find me on Instagram at the call sign the with my name at the bottom, Robert K. Jeffrey. That
Mhm.
actually might is probably the best way, and also visit blacksci-fi.com,
Mhm.
blacksci-fi.com. We recently, late last year, actually, the latter part of last year, the site underwent a renovation of sorts, so an upgrade, and it looks nice. So go back and check the backlog of news that we have and stories and all the good
Mhm.
stuff, and look out for something from me 4400 related
Okay.
towards the end of this season. I'm
Good.
going to
Good.
give a
Good.
season review. So
All right, bet that, bet that. Well, yes, those links will be in the show notes, folks. Make sure to click on those show notes and those links. Me, Twitter, Carefree Blurred, the most immediate way to get in touch with me, Carefree Black Nerd everywhere else. Email me, carefreeblacknerd@gmail.com if you got something to say, got a little voice note, something for 4400 or whatever. Make sure you specify in the subject because that makes it easier. Sure. Oh man, well this was fun to be back after the little winter break. So
I'm glad to be back.
yeah, yeah, man. We got FOMO to go, y'all. FOMO in the chamber.
Yeah.
So yeah, until
FOMO
next
for the FOMO for the
time.
fofo.
Oh yeah, there we go. Hey,
Yeah.
hey. Oh shoot. So thank y'all for rocking with us this long and with the original series as well,
Yeah.
with us reviewing that one. And until next time, man, stay carefree, nerdy, geeky. Don't stop Asian hate, Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
marginalized people matter, and we'll see you next week. All right.